Euromaxx highlights. Coming up in this edition. Swordplay. A Berlin stunt team turns actors into musketeers. Icons, images. Karl Lagerfeld, the photographer, captures models and more on film. Music in the air. Bonn in Beethoven Festival fever. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello from Berlin and welcome. Art can be very exciting, especially when it breaks with convention and challenges our perspectives. And Fabio Viale's sculptures achieve this in a really innovative way. From Turin in Italy, Viale's material of choice is marble. Not an easy material to work with, but like Michelangelo before him, Viale makes it come to life in ways you wouldn't expect.
Fabio Viale, in one of his most spectacular pieces, a marble boat.
Ricordo ancora
I can still remember the sunlight. Of course, it's brighter in my memory than it was in reality. I remember that the skies opened and a ray of sunlight illuminated the boat. I could see the ocean waves through the marble. It's a wonderful memory.
In 2002, the artist spent 5 months fashioning the boat out of a single block of marble. One of the challenges, the thinner the exterior walls, the greater the risk of breaking.
I
began working with marble when I was 16 and haven't stopped since. I'm still fascinated by it. The material allows me to create the shapes that I envision. There's nothing I can't do with it. That's what I like about it.
Senza darmi dei limiti, e questo mi piace del materiale.
For example, a flat tire or a giant paper glider. Fabio Viale has done the unimaginable with marble. And he enjoys toying with our sense of what is normal.
Marble is my canvas, a white, neutral material from which I can create anything.
Viale lives with his art. His apartment is filled with his pieces. The 35-year-old studied sculpture in Turin and Carrara.
I'm interested in changing people's minds about things through art. It's a bit like opening a new door or heading in a new direction. I think that's the purpose of art.
An example, his Mona Lisa in styrofoam look. The missing nose underscores the sense of imperfection and being slightly out of focus.
The Mona Lisa painting is in soft focus. I wanted to translate that effect into sculpture. It's very difficult. But I was able to do it using the styrofoam effect. All the edges on the corners are broken by the bubbles and leave a fuzzy impression. Because there are no clear contours, it's possible for everyone to see their own version of Mona Lisa in it.
Pietro Gagliardi is the sculptor's art dealer. He sells the pieces at international art fairs for anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 euros.
It's fantastic the way he works with marble, a traditional and almost holy material. He interprets the marble in such a way that something modern and contemporary comes out of it. Not many artists can do that.
Fabio Viale is an artist who brings a refreshingly playful touch to the venerable medium of marble.
I just love it, especially that boat. A bit of swashbuckling adventure next with the Three Musketeers. This great story by Alexandre Dumas is being filmed yet again, and the latest star-studded version is being made entirely here in Germany. We decided to throw our very own dashing musketeer Sharon Bercal into the fray, so we sent her to a stunt school to learn a bit of sword play.
For my start in the movie business, I put myself in good hands. Buff Connection in Berlin have already worked for major film productions like Perfume or The International. My coach, Michael Bornhüter, is the choreographer of the sword fighting scenes in the new Musketeers film.
A lot of hard work goes into it. The moves you usually see are not learned in a single day. Normally, we work on them for 4 to 6 weeks, going through them again and again before showing them to the actors. Everything has to work right down to the smallest detail. Otherwise, we might as well not even begin.
But Michael Bornhüter loves a challenge and making the impossible a reality. At the end of the day, I am to reenact a fencing scene like the ones we know from Musketeer films. The first step, a warm-up.
I wouldn't really have thought that my aspiring career in Hollywood has to start with sport, but I hope it's paying off.
This is your basic stance.
I'll keep this basic fencing position for the next 7 hours. My thigh muscles are already begging to go home. Stage 2, I get a weapon. I'll be fighting with a lighter sword than in the films. Anything else would be too great a burden for my untrained wrists. Michael Bornhüter shows me the various defensive stances of fencing.
Das wäre die Abwehr zu unten die andere Seite. Das ist eine Abwehr nach oben.
Actors often receive sword fighting instruction months before shooting starts. I have to learn everything in just a few hours. It's not so simple. As soon as I've learned the basics, I'm introduced to the men who will later be my opponents. For 2 weeks now, they've been squaring off against Christoph Waltz and company.
Michael, this is quite exhausting what we're doing at the moment. Be honest, how much, if you see that on film, is done by the actual actor and how much is done by the stuntman?
When I have 2 actors sword fight with each other, then if the camera position permits, it's often one actor against a stuntman. But I'd say 99% of the time, it's the 2 actors.
For the next 2 hours, the 2 stuntmen and I learn Michael Bornhüter's choreography. Each individual motion is practiced just like a dance, except that here, instead of moving to music, you move to the position of the camera. Time for dress rehearsal en garde. By the way, the Three Musketeers of Alexandre Dumas really existed. They were serving the French Royal Guard in the middle of the 17th century. If they have lived the stories like they've been told in the book, nobody knows. But I hope for them that they look better in their uniforms than I feel in it. And then we start. A whole day's training for a few seconds of real film fighting.
Didn't she do well? Chanel's chief designer, Karl Lagerfeld, is a fashion icon, but in recent years his photography has been grabbing some attention, and rightly so. Perhaps not surprisingly, he does have a good eye for choosing the right moment to press the shutter. Now, a retrospective featuring portraits, fashion photos and more experimental works has just opened in Paris.
Karl Lagerfeld tends to attract attention wherever he goes. His most recent publicity coup wasn't the unveiling of a new collection, but a collection of photographs from 1987 to the present day. He shot his first advertising campaign for Chanel 23 years ago.
We were putting together a press kit for Chanel, and I hadn't done it myself, so I didn't like it. After our third attempt that season, Chanel's image director said to me, "Well, if you're so difficult, just do it yourself." So we rented a camera and hired an assistant and just got going. The first picture I took was of Inès de la Frazange, and it almost turned into an industry of its own.
The exhibition at the European House of Photography in Paris features around 150 photos by Lagerfeld, mostly black and white. They range from fashion to self-portraits, nudes, landscapes, and architecture, like these New York skyscrapers.
I love architecture. It's the opposite of fashion, but in a way it's not. And I love taking pictures by myself without a team of 6 assistants. That takes such a lot of organizing. But these pictures of the Eiffel Tower and these trees and Versailles, I took them all with my small camera.
His portraits include Hollywood actress Sharon Stone, German actress Diane Kruger, Jack Nicholson, and film director David Lynch.
The picture he took of me is the favorite picture of mine that someone's taken. He just has an eye. He sees it and bang, it's done.
Another one of his biggest fans is French actress Vanessa Paradis.
I think he has fabulous ideas, and his photographs are very strong. They have a lot of wit and poetry to them, as he does himself. When we work together, we always laugh a lot and work very hard. It's always fun.
These days, Karl Lagerfeld's main muse is French model Baptiste Giappicconi. Earlier this year, he published a collection of portraits just of him. And an entire wall of the exhibition is also devoted to the male model.
Karl knows exactly what he wants. He arrives and immediately starts taking his pictures. He works very fast because he has it all mapped out in advance. He never improvises. We've been working together for a while now, so we know one another well and we get on great. That's why the results are so good.
Another part of the exhibition focuses on various creative experiments. Supermodel Linda Evangelista spent 8 hours in makeup before this shoot for US Vogue in 1992.
The medium of photography, old-fashioned techniques and the new ones, the paper you work with, I wouldn't say it's more important than the actual photos, but it's all very interesting. Personally, I try to use Photoshop as little as possible. If you make an effort to get the light right and so on, then you don't need Photoshop. It's for lazy people, really.
And that's one thing Karl Lagerfeld isn't. He loves working and combining his two loves, fashion design and photography.
It's all tied up together. It all expands your horizons. I don't look at a picture with the eye of a designer, but with the eye of a photographer. I see the graphic aspect, not the creative aspect.
Karl Lagerfeld says there's one motif he'd still love to photograph.
I'd love to take the Acropolis, but when no one's there.
So we might soon be spotting him in Athens. Until then, Karl Lagerfeld's work can be admired at the exhibition in Paris, which runs until the end of October.
We now move to Bonn in Western Germany and the Beethoven Festival, named after the city's most famous son. Every year for 4 weeks, beginning in September, the city is host to a splendid classical music festival. Naturally, Beethoven's music plays a major role, but the festival has a lot more to offer besides.
Cellist Solga Betta captivates and enthralls the audience from the very first note. Her concert with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen, led by conductor Paavo Järvi at Bonn's Beethoven Halle Concert Hall, is sold out. Just a short walk away on the city's Münsterplatz, 4,000 people follow the concert at a public viewing put on by the Beethoven Festival in cooperation with DW-TV.
She was fantastic, a great energy.
We read about it on the internet, and then the weather was good, so we thought, let's go. And we haven't been disappointed.
It's difficult to get tickets for the Beethoven Festival concerts, so the public viewing is great.
At the final rehearsal on the afternoon of the concert, the star cellist has to be fully concentrated, even though she's just flown into town. The cello concerto from Robert Schumann is one of Solga Betta's favorite works. The Argentinian-born cellist is constantly on the move, but she has a particular affection for Bonn's Beethoven Festival.
There are sometimes festivals where the organization controls what you do a bit. There's a particular program and you either fit in or you don't. So for me, I always like the freedom here to choose the program and to choose the musicians you play with. That's always made me very happy, that I can play the music that I really like.
Bonn is gearing up for a 4-week music marathon involving 2,500 artists. The program involves established stars, the best newcomers, and numerous premieres. The motto this year, Utopia and Freedom in Music, embodies the spirit of Bonn's most famous son.
I always want something special. I want something that suits the artists, but I also want to be a little ahead of our time. This is how we differentiate ourselves conceptually from other festivals. Beethoven was ahead of his time, and we have that obligation too.
On Friday, the festival was opened by French pianist Hélène Grimaud, playing Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 5, also with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen, conducted by Paavo Järvi.
With Beethoven's music, sometimes it's having to transcend your own condition as a human being. That alone is a battle. And being that we're capable of the best and the worst is always there to be overcome because it's always lurking around. So this is something which I think you always feel very strongly. It's one of the things that makes Beethoven's music so universal.
Grammy-winning conductor Paavo Järvi has been a regular guest here with his Bremen-based orchestra for the past 7 years. In 2009, they performed all 9 Beethoven symphonies in 4 days, a feat captured on film for a DW-TV documentary.
To find every season a different way how Beethoven relates to the world or relates to us, how he is relevant today, is what makes this important, makes this interesting.
The power of music. Tonight you can feel it in Beethoven's hometown. and not only in the concert halls.
Finally, Dutch landscape designer Piet Oudolf has created quite a stir with gardens complementing buildings in urban areas. His gardens are unusual in that they're rather informal. He likes to let things run a little wild. His latest creation is in the Italian city of Venice.
This garden is like a meadow, full of colorful summer flowers. It might look wild and untamed, but it adheres to a carefully planned concept. It was devised by Piet Oudolf from the Netherlands. He was the only landscape designer invited to participate in this year's Architecture Biennale in Venice. Everyone else there is displaying building models and housing constructions.
It was just a surprise to be asked, someone who makes gardens or landscapes with plants, that they are asked to do a garden on an architectural event. And I knew about the Biennale, and it's a sort of very important place, but to be honest, I said no when they asked me.
But in the end, he decided to take part. He had only 4 months to design the garden that would make up the final section of the exhibition. The concept is a colorful mixture of plants on 2 levels, high and low, but without a clear separation. It gives visitors the impression that the garden is a field of flowers.
I hope it shows that there's more possible in public space. That the public space can have a sort of more, become a more dynamic space instead of a sort of static space. It's not that I want to change the landscapes, it's just that I want to add something to the landscape.
Colorful meadows are Oudolf's trademark. He has created many gardens for private homes and public spaces, mostly in Northern and Central Europe. Oudolf's work is also in demand in the United States. In 2004, he planted a garden in Chicago's famed Millennium Park. That success was followed by commissions in New York. Under his direction, the High Line, a disused stretch of train track in Manhattan, became a garden path between the city's skyscrapers.
One of my favorite compliments about the High Line is someone said, everything's better on the High Line. I just feel happier on the High Line. And I think that's one of the things Piet's landscape have the ability to do.
In 2005, Oudolf planted a garden of remembrance to the victims of September 11th in Battery Park, not far from Ground Zero. His gardens work well in summer and winter because plants bloom at different times of the year.
The more I worked there, the more I saw that it really helps people. And the place looked awful, so whatever I could do, not only for the victims or family of victims, but also for the people that live in the city.
Oudolf's background is the restaurant business. He worked in his parents' restaurant until his mid-20s, when he decided to train as a gardener. He founded a design studio in the late 1970s. He and his wife live in Hummelo in the Netherlands. He loves to experiment with plants in his own nursery. It helps him to come up with new ideas.
Everything in life is a sort of moving forward to the next thing. But I think if you really start, then it becomes a challenge, because then you don't want to make what you have done before. Then you want to just give people a little twist on what they know of you.
That's not easy if you work on 5 to 7 projects at the same time, like Piet Oudolf does. He jets around the world, spending a lot of time in the United States, Sweden, and Germany. He says the travel balances his quiet home life, where he and his wife enjoy their own private garden.
And that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. And until next time, from myself and all the crew here in Berlin, bye-bye.